Oh, man. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the broadcast. We're going to be doing our game dev project today. Shocking, I know. Not like it's what we primarily do lately. Before we do, let's check in with the kitties. We do have Sky on the bed and Mason above him, both of them very actively not on a blanket. I wonder how often we're actually getting that. We'll have to see. Sammy is over in the play area. I wonder who she is blockading. It's always kind of funny to watch cats where they will stand in a particular location or sit or lay down. And it is effectively an act of aggression where even though they're just kind of chilling out, they're creating a bubble of, if you walk by me, I could smack you. So another cat might hesitate to go through that area. And you can see that they're positioned to make it very difficult not to go through that area. But yeah. I'm tired today, which is not out of the ordinary, but it was a narrow thing for the stream today. I spent a little bit of time offline adding a new thing, and let's jump in and look at that. So we added a node cache, because that is what we did with our visuals last time. Is we had a stack of nodes that we were reusing. So every time we add a new node, every time we need one, every time we need a node 2D in this object, we go to the cache and we ask for one, which will either create one and pin it to the parent object, this thing that we passed in when we made it, or it will just give you one of the ones that's not in use. And when it's not in use, for the time being, we are removing processing from them. Currently, these nodes don't do any extra processing, but this ensures that if there's anything else we add to the node as part of it being in this collection, maybe there will be some sort of event that we add so that it says, okay, I've added this node, do what you want to it. Right now, that do what you want is handled in a separate object. But this means that none of the process or physics process events go into it. When it's disabled, and then when we're going to use it, we set it to inherit. We set it to be active again. Well, we set it to do whatever the node it's pinned to does. Since we're not creating nodes constantly as we go, we're saving processing. We're also not removing them from the tree, which these are much more expensive than pinning a sprite. I don't really know what the difference is, but they were cheaper. Well, the sprites were cheaper than the full node 2Ds. So we'll see how this plays out. It does consume more processing if we drop back down after having gone very high in usage. Because those still exist, they're still part of the tree. That's why I have disabled them to minimize that. I may go into the cache and have logic for we are adding another one, and there's a whole bunch of unused ones. I'm going to start decaying the cache so that there are fewer of them around. Because right now we don't release them. We're also keeping them pinned to this object. Means that cleanup is easier. Hey there, Yopi. Oh, it's morning over there, huh? Well, I mean, for me, it's kind of my morning. Not a lot of sun gets into the factory. No. Days and time are a construct. Okay, but let's fire it up and verify that I didn't break something that I forgot to deal with. I do want to revisit the loading again. Right now we're jobbing off each file, and that leads to stuff like this, where we are getting weird weird unhandled errors. So if I skip this one, we're probably we can continue on. But I need to make sure to add to the error handling of this structure. So last time we made it so that these explosions are a particle. It means that part of it means that we can configure that particle to be one and done. So that we don't have to worry about the what I'm going to call the explosion problem, where we had to do kind of like extra logic in the background to make it so that the explosion could collide with stuff, but it only lived long enough for the single sprite iteration. So it would exist for like less than 1/10 of a second, but the graphic would continue to exist for a full second so it could play out, which added a whole extra layer to the lifetime processing, which I don't want to bind that in with visuals. Same way as when something dies, I'm probably going to use a separate visual to say, create this visual rendering system, but we don't care about the entity. Like that can be a null kind of thing, because this is going to be a death visual. With the yarn ball working how it normally would, which means it aims at a random enemy. 4M, West Indonesia. Ooh. It continues to be interesting encountering folks from all over the world, effectively. As not only do you get the different time zones, it is useful when there isn't a language barrier, but, you know, sometimes that's still true. Just for those, one, you know, meeting people from around the world, but also just to some extent, the novelty of it, you know. When we stream together with Sky, it's she's over in UK time. But yeah, we can see the explosions happen periodically, and I don't have to have extra handling for that. So right now, our number of frames per second is still several hundred. And if I ramp it up to where we're making a whole bunch of objects, we are going to see the frames per second drop substantially, as we usually would. So as we're approaching this, we're adding more and more nodes. This is an area that we could clean it up further, where we could add more nodes the faster we add things. Where there is a sort of... where it's trying to keep ahead of demand. Kind of the inverse of if there isn't a whole lot of demand for them, if you're asking for them slow enough that the cache is staying big, that it starts to, you know, consume the cache so that it doesn't overburden the system. So now we're going to pull it back down. And it should recover frames per second as the count of them drops. But if I recall from my testing, we won't get all the way back to the same amount. So right here, we're back down to 200. Because there are a lot more nodes in the tree. There's a few thousand nodes that are still in the tree, that even if they're not being processed, they're present, and, you know, you have to determine, don't process these. So it's not free. We go back up again. I want to verify this because I recall I didn't do this test case. Run it up, run it down, run it up, run it down kind of stuff. Because this should be able to hover around, you know, 5 or 6. But we are hitting 4. We're going to run it down again. Now we're recovering. Yeah, we've suffered another loss here. Let's look at it in the Godot side. There is something going wrong with what I've added. So again, we're going to get it rolling and take a baseline. So sitting, 130 objects, we've got, let's say 13 to 1400 frames per second. You can get a little higher than that. Yeah, 13 to 1500. Let's get these out of the way. Now we're going to spike it back up. And while we're doing that, we're going to hop over here into our debugger, and we're going to look at orphan nodes. We should not have any of these. We should not have any orphan nodes. So there's our problem. There's something that we are making that is having these linger. This is not free. And these nodes should be sticking around. Is it that the visuals are lingering? Okay. Okay, let's keep an eye on that. Okay, we're getting way more orphans. I don't recall that. I only know Conan is responsible for the what is good in life, or at least the writing of that. I mean, it's recovering, and that's where we want it to be, is recovering. There is going to be a period where there will be orphans generated. I'm just surprised at the big spike. Okay, let's drop it back down. So this is as our visual objects are going away. We're plateauing out here. Okay, this is wrong. Okay, thank you. Yeah, this is not great. This is not great. So we're still accumulating a lot and having to release them. But the frames per second has plummeted. Well, as is tradition, we may not get to our goal today, which would be revising collision to be shaped nodes like that, or to be separate nodes that we create alongside the entity and track independently, because we have the threat of this still, where we are potentially going to be losing more and more each time. Nodes, what else we got? All right, amping it up. So we can already see there is a slightly lower. It was generally 4 to 6. Now we're getting 4 and 5 pretty much consistently. Ember, no. So we go over here. Not surprising, number of objects climbing way up. Orphan nodes getting back into our big spikes. Nodes in general is in an upward trend. And that shouldn't be the case. We should not have all of these extra nodes. This will be a truly enormous list. Yeah, this just keeps climbing. Now, some of that could be the Godot engine itself, since, if I recall, this uses Godot objects in its plugin. Or you can essentially make plugins for this, and that's something that I'll have to investigate for map editing. So the orphans are one thing, but the fact that we've got these objects going up implies I've got a leak somewhere. And that these nodes are climbing is another leak surface that should not be going up as high as it is. So again, we ramp down. I'll have to add some logic in to do debug outputs when one of the big ones goes away. Like when the entity manager goes away, I want to have the caches debug print what their size was at the end. Okay, so we've lost another 50 frames a second. And we can see there's a big pile of objects left. There's a big pile of extra nodes left that have been added, and our orphan structure is still sticking around a while. This is Godot, essentially garbage collection. We can see it goes up and up, and we've said a lot of these nodes should go away. They should be freed. You queue free them, and Godot gets around to it. And these should be the visual objects sticking around, but they are not being freed properly. Well, that's a problem. Yeah. with a low amount, we climb very, very slowly, but we are still gaining nodes. We are still gaining objects, even with them freed. So there is a steady cost that even when we clean up the orphans, we're still lingering on this. All right, let's add that debugging. Well, let's exit the game tree. So we have ripped out the so this is, we have exited back to the main menu, which means the screen that constitutes the game has gone away. So now we're back up to excess frames per second. Our object list is still really high. Our orphan nodes have kind of stabilized, but there really shouldn't be any. And our nodes are down to the minimum. So there's still some stuff that is left around. Still some stuff that we created that hasn't gone away. Which is, again, very odd. All right, let's start with the caches. And when those are removed, we're going to check the cache and see how big it is. Because if it exceeds about, let's say 3,000, there is a problem. That shouldn't be happening. So we're going to add the destructor here. Boig. Hey, sharpshooter. It is going. I had different plans for today as far as what we would start coding. We're not doing that. There's a problem. We've got to ID the problem. I don't want to do it here in C#. I want to do it in Godot. So we're going to make some objects. Physically, mentally, socially, what do we got here, sharpshooter? How are you not feeling well? Okay, we go back over, we go to our debugger, we can see frames dropping appropriately, objects climbing steadily. Orphans dropping down, but we now have a minimum of orphans. This is not good. Visual should just be a catalogable, and it contains references to these. I wonder if we're not nulling those properly. So we want to queue free them, and we also want to null it immediately after we queue free it. I wonder if we've got kind of a lingering reference won't let it go away kind of thing. But if the parent object is null, then we shouldn't have a lingering one. It should be gone. Anyhow, we're going to end, and we're going to look at our output here. Odd, we didn't get. That should have happened. Oh. No, these should have gone away. We'll run it here. But yeah, this can still run into problems. All right, that destructor didn't happen. Hey, Apogryph, we're doing well. We're doing well. I mean, we have a code problem, and it's weird that it's not resolving. But we're getting there. We're getting there. Hey, so this not being deconstructed is a problem. Because that will have excess objects being created then. So let's go up here and have our public override exit tree. You let's add a public int count set. It's only a getter. Earn node cache dot count. Here, and that is going to be node cache dot count. So this should be when we drop back to the menu. That should register it. We don't want to run it in C#. Want to run it in Godot so that we get that output message. We're just going to go immediately to spam like crazy. Back over at our debugger, we can see we've dropped frames. We are generating objects and nodes like crazy. Going to escape out. Or back to main menu. We go here. Should have output. There's one node in the cache at this time. Okay, that is reasonable. That is reasonable because we could have just ended. What this implies is it's not the cache that's holding too many objects. That's good. Okay, let's look in some other places. Let's... import... Get those in there so that we don't muddle up later commits. So let's go to... Molly. No, I want to climb up there. Molly likes to climb in the most destructive way possible. Like, all of them like to do the, this is the hardest path to follow me through. But Molly likes to climb onto things that she is actually very likely to fall off of in the process. What are you doing? Yeah? Okay. Yeah, let's zoom in on the cat cam a moment. Whoop. This guy is being comfy there. We have fluffball belly visible. Okay. We're going to look at a couple of other things. I did move these out to a separate thingy here. I do need to separate out the entities from the game screen. The entity service. Right now, it's in here. I want to pull that out. I want to pull a lot of them out. Okay, so this one will have another on exit tree. Right. Exit tree. There's enter tree. Team manager's a node. What? But exit tree. Oh, what type is it? Ah. Does it need to be a node 2D to have an exit tree? Well, let's try that a moment. It's entity manager. Why can we not do that? Because we have a ready. Like, we can do ready. Oh. I already had one. Womp womp. Okay, let's see. We have Ah, find the buttons. Count. Let's do this a little bit jagged. So that we can read it a little easier. Let's start with that. What else we have to keep up? We do have entities by category to deal with. We shouldn't be doing this anymore at all. Each. These by category is a dictionary, uint, int, entity. There are days like that, Sharpshooter. There are days like that. This is a pair. Value pair. Bug. Okay, so this is it's definitely like that, Sharpshooter. Even with short burst editing, with long editing, it is not certain that people want to watch any individual thing. And there's no certainty that anything you find about it is going to work for that particular time, you know? That is, one time it might be that the thumbnails was the thing that wasn't doing it, and the other time it might be the content wasn't good or the title wasn't good. The only thing that you can really do is keep trying. Okay, so this will dump the main entities collection count as well as the count for each of the by categories. I mean, that's the mindset you got to get out of. It's you've worked to get to this point, and if number continue to go up, there are people looking. And I don't mean views per video. I mean like sub count, that kind of thing. There are people looking, and you just got to keep at it. Let's ramp the number real high here. Oh, well, it doesn't help me to do it here because I'm not going to get the debug output. Because we're going to get flooded here, but there isn't. I have to figure out how to get debug print to show up in the C# side. That would be great. Get those out of the way. Just want to check real quick. Maybe there's I mean, you made it, you deserve it. That is the mindset that you need to be in. It is something that you did, it is something that you made, it is yours. It's not a matter of deserving it, it's a matter of it's yours. Sticks. Yeah, it's debug print isn't showing up, so there's got to be some other trick to it in Visual Studio that I'm just not aware of, which is a hassle, but it is what it is right now. So again, we're doing on exit tree so that when we exit out of the game screen, we can get an idea of how much is lingering. I'm doing the same loadout each time if I can, if I remember, because I want to remove that as a variable. I want to say, okay, given that I am flooding the screen, we're going to let it run down to minimum frames per second, and then we're going to exit. It's right about there. This unloads that tree, which will unload the entity manager. And at that time, yeah, entities by category is off. Is it? No, that's right. No, it's right. It's right. I've said this to other people, Sharpshooter, is if you have expectations for how a friend works, you know, how if you have expectations of a friend, as far as the kind of thing that you want them to be able to do for you, one is to communicate that, is they should be aware of your expectations for them. And if that isn't an expectation that they're comfortable with, then you need to reconsider the relationship. Is that an expectation that you still want to be there given that they refuse it? You can't expect something of them, or you shouldn't, if it's not something they want to give. That's not a healthy relationship. Really doesn't matter whether it's a friend, a work acquaintance, anything like that. If there's an expectation that isn't mutually accepted, then things are going to run into problems. As for like YouTube channels, there have been times where my subscribers have dropped. There have been times when the subscribers don't grow. There have been times when a video does really well and then so many of them after that don't. There have been times when I'm streaming to like no one, and times when an uncommon number of people swing through. It is the nature of the beast, you know? Okay, render cache is cleaning up. Entity list at the time of shutdown still has plenty of things in it. We are gonna try... What? Let's run through this real quick here. On exit tree. Is it entity or is it a... Okay, it's an int to entity. Int to entity. This will trigger the remove. It's not pair. Remove. That won't do anything. That won't do anything. It would have to, like, a cleanup. It's sharpshooter. Dot's had a really good little bit over in the Twitch channel. Another good way to put this is you can control what you do. You can control the things you do. Can't control other people. If your expectation is that another person always do what you want, whether that's viewers of your channel, personal relations, those kind of things, then you're going to have a bad time. It's especially in a field that is ultimately an entertainment field, or a let's call it a production field, where you are making something for other people to consume. There is the possibility that people don't want to. And you have to ask yourself, do I want to keep doing this? If it's a raw product, like you're making a sandwich and people don't like your sandwiches, then perhaps you should reconsider making those sandwiches, because you're going to have trash cans full of sandwiches after a bit. But maybe that's try to find a different audience. Maybe you know that there are people somewhere else that like your sandwiches. Maybe you got to go to that other place. Maybe you make different sandwiches. Maybe you go to another place. But those are things you can do. But you can't make people like the sandwiches. I am intentionally choosing a different product so that it's clear in that regard. But yeah, the same is true for somebody doing art commissions. The same is true for somebody making videos or similar. You got to ask yourself, if your goal is for other people to consume the product and potentially give you monies, you may need to adjust to what people want. If your goal is primarily the creative expression and you would like that to make money, you might need to account for the audience. Yep, Tass, yep. It's, are you making it because you want to make it, yourself, or are you making it because you want people to like them? Because if you want people to like them, there are routes that you can go down. That's why we get a lot of videos that are clearly clickbait and engagement bait kind of stuff. Is you're making things that you think that the maximum number of people will enjoy making. But if you want to make something that is yours, that was something you wanted to make, then maybe people won't like it, but you put it out there. You did the thing. You made, you learned, you did something. And that can have its own value. Okay, these aren't lingering. And we shouldn't have to flush the collection. But we are getting lingering objects. So I'm wondering how many of these things we actually do need to go through and clear. Okay, so they're not lingering here. Let's keep looking at other places. Let's go to our collision space. Okay, so we have our exit tree. We are going to detach from entity added. Then we are going to collisions count. Okay, back over here. I don't know if you know it off the top of your head, Tess. Is there a toggle I have to flip in Visual Studio to ensure that when I'm doing a debug run, that it treats it as a debug run so that the things like debug print go to output as opposed to, being compiled out? Run it up. I wonder if it's a toggle about run in Godot that I'm missing. Because, yeah, it should do that naturally, you'd think. Okay, we exited tree. Collision Space Manager had nothing left. Render Node Cache had one thing, but that's not too surprising. Entities had a bunch of things. That's... Why does the Collision Space Manager clean up so much better? I feel like that might be part of our problem. Just spam these out. Just run it like that. Make it worse. This is maximizing the bad. Now we're helped by the fact that the explosions. Oh, okay. There we go. We are dipping below 1 frame per second periodically here. I mean, it doesn't help that we're creating like 240 things a second. But it does help that the explosions only linger for like a single frame. The entity is pretty much gone right away. It's technically about 2 frames, but the entity is gone almost right away, and the visual is there only long enough for its explosion to happen. So the number of things being processed is less. Okay, we escape out. We look. Still consistent with the entities. Rendering and nodes are cleaned up by the end. Yep. Like, I don't mind that level of frame loss, because if you get to that point, you win. It's just a matter of you win. I don't want it to crash, but it doesn't really have to be gameplay anymore. Which is part of the reason that a lot of games like that have kill conditions, where the game just forcibly ends. The White Reaper in Vampire Survivors, where it's you're done. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you manage to kill the Red Death over and over. You're done. Okay, so entities is still something that I want to look into removing. Is there something more that we could do with those? So let's look at entity and make sure we don't have any elements of it that could be a problem. Oh, but if visuals and nodes and collisions are cleaning up, we shouldn't have a problem there. Look at entity. For those that joined after, we have some sort of leak going on. Now, it's not surprising that we have a cost in regards to nodes in the primary tree, because we are creating extra nodes to account for how many entities are in existence at once. So for visuals, if we're sitting at like 2,500 entities, there are 2,500 visual nodes, and we're not unloading them every time. We're not ripping the node off the tree, because we're going to need it again in just a moment. So we reuse it. What if... Okay, let's add another variable to our node cache to start with. Okay, whenever we are adding a new node here, we add a new one. If, sorry, not here. Okay, we're going to do 2 of them. So we don't actually get the destructor on this, which is interesting. I suspect it's actually happening, but that it is interesting that the destructor never gets called on this. I think it should be a problem, but anyhow. So here's where we push it in. If greater than max cached equal to so this is, we added one, this is how much got in the cache. This should actually not become very high. If this is getting big, we have a problem. Because we should be cycling this almost 1-to-1. I should be getting something popped out of that stack as fast as we're making them. Well, about as fast. So this should only get as high as around the max number of visual objects that have been on the screen at once, which will be higher than the number of active entities. So we're going to expose this. It's a debug variable, but okay, big deal. Dang it. I keep hitting insert. Together. So for the code, I just did a thing. So the suggestion was, do you want to do the same thing for another variable that you've recently made to match the pattern? These are useful. It's still confounding that sometimes the things that are suggested are wrong. Like, it won't compile. It's not something that I've recently done. It doesn't make sense. Like, that's just weird. When it's not what I want, but the suggestion makes sense, that's very different. Okay, so then when our node cache, when we're done with our visual, we're going to spit that out here. We can just do multiple debug prints. We want new lines, we want new lines. Okay, so now we run over here. This, again, we're going to overload it. Hey there, Augusto. We're trying to find a memory leak. Which means we're putting our system through the highest level of strain. Getting upwards of 2 frames a second while we're doing this. Here. This is a problem. That shouldn't be happening. There were 83 in the cache at one point, and we created 21,000 nodes in the renderer. So some of these were never making it back into the cache, and the cache had content in it, but with the numbers that we had, we were creating about 240 entities per second. Those would each need well, thank you, Augusto. I appreciate it. Thank you for the super chat. Super chat merits a translation. I do only speak and read English, so forgive me if it takes me a while to decipher some of this. Where did I put that? There it is. Boop. I said boop. Okay, well then it's mutual there. It's mutual. But thank you, Augusto. Thank you. Augusto said that they don't understand anything, but they appreciate me. At least that's what DeepL Translate thinks. Okay, so we have a problem. We have a problem here. Good, we found it. Next question, what is it and why? Oh, okay. Yeah. There's complexity here. Well, we're getting to see one of the traditional elements of programming, and that's that I know something's wrong, and I might know what is wrong, like what the symptom of the wrongness is with increasing precision. But why it's wrong and how it's becoming wrong is a mystery. Okay, why are we getting excess created in our node cache? So every time we release one, we push it to the cache. And we should be releasing one whenever we get an event here. And that's fine. That's fine, Augusto. This is a mutual learning experience. Now we do get this destructor. We do get this one firing. This is a fail-safe. Okay, we initialize it, we put the sprite in, we start the sprite animating. figure sprite. Trigger removal if the animation finishes, if it's a play once. We set up the entity. Animation change, that's for like player walking. Position updated. Let's trigger removal. If the entity is removed, we trigger removal. Which is remove the entity, remove the sprite, invoke remove visual entity, which is our event that will bubble up. It makes some sense that we would create a lot of extra ones, but that should be early spikes, because the visuals should be going away at about the same speed as the entities. So weird that this is happening so quickly. Sorry, this isn't happening quickly. Only like 80 of them were getting into the cache, but we created like 20,000 of them, and that's a real problem. That's a big problem. Every time we create one of these, we pin it to the owner. We do not want to delete these once we create them. That is expensive. Eventually. I need a system for doing it. But, you know, if this game releases and people like it, well, primarily if this game releases, I do want to have those, you know, thanks to the patrons kind of thing. But I don't know if all the people that, you know, subscribed will be still subscribing by the end of it. We may still just have to wing it. I might have to come up with some way to catalog that, you know. We'll see. So I think this is our problem. Let me... This might be nothing. This could be nothing still. It's not null, and... Sanity check. Here. Default. Nope. Weird. Maybe the very nature that we're throwing it to another executable is obfuscating that from C#, and that the debug messages are actually coming over here. Oh, I forgot the burst. Okay, so you can see part of why I had those two lines in there. We're at 800 and we're at a very low frames per second. This is something that I just wanted to do. I've wanted to make a game for a bit, and so now I'm doing it, finally. Yeah, we're still creating way too many nodes. Some time ago, we made a mod for a game that we played a lot. And now we are saying, yeah, it's kind of like Laura has just said in the other stream. You know, making a game we want to play. Hey, stop. Look. All right. Something to do with the caching process. Something to do with the caching process. This... We already know that this doesn't work 100%. At least the stack logic doesn't work 100%. So I wonder... Just... Because peaking the stack... and Q. Why would you not just use push pop? Really? Yeah, this is why I want to revisit the loading, is you can get into, I think, kind of race conditions while it's loading, where all of the things that are kind of jumping forward in the thread list and getting precedence are ones that are waiting. They're waiting on one that isn't getting to start fast enough. And if I make a list and sort them by type, then it is very likely, even if I don't sort them by type, if I iterate over the list, everything in the list would get a chance to be handled each pass. And I would also have a consistent single list to say, when I timed out, these were the things that weren't done. But that's a future Newt problem. The S pattern may not look impressive when it's not, covered in explosions, but it has really good coverage. We're going to let it ramp up to its maximum here. Okay. Pop out, take a look. Oh, I'm running in the wrong place again. There's also the possibility that C# is just because it's debugging all of the processes that are being queued up, that it is kind of muddying the waters, you know? That the read is taking longer because all of the threads are kind of in debug mode within C#. So it's, you know, it's watching. And that isn't free. Debugging isn't free. Out, take a look. Okay, so it's not the queuing. It's not the queuing. Was I overthinking this? I mean, that never happens. That would never happen. Here, over here. Hey there, Evan/Gohan. I will attempt to use a name if you call it out, but there's no guarantee that I'll remember if your handle is different. Okay, hop back out, take a look. We're still creating nodes, so it wasn't that. Just doesn't make any sense. Because we're only creating one of them per entity. And we're never creating 15,000 entities. We're only getting up to 2,500-ish. So we should never have more than that many nodes. Right there is that. The existence of an entity is what gives us that number. And all of the animations, all of the visuals that we have live no longer than the life of the entity. So, I mean, it's fine to leave this like that. Let's... I mean, it is a memory leak. It's more of like an object leak. Like, we have things that are being created that shouldn't be created. We getting to here so frequently. When they're released, this happens. All right, let's add another count. Released. Released. What the syntax is. There's a syntax for making a region. Here we go. Then I can do that. Okay, so then up in our renderer here, over hunting those objects. This is going to be a mission for much of the day, I suspect. Here, let's show it without the explosions real quick here. We are still going to get a similar number of them. This is actually a decent test, though, because we aren't creating many of the explosions. We're only creating one a second there. That is much lower. That is much lower. All of the other variables in here. But we're going to override the explosion so it happens on these. We never released any. The number's much higher. Okay. There's something wrong with the way that we're doing explosions. They're being created, but we're not releasing them. Well, actually, nothing's getting released. So it's not, okay, it's not surprising that we're creating them, but released is 0. No. No. That's a problem. Okay, I will be right back. Quick break. Then we'll dig into this. Okay, we're back. Okay. So, it's never being released. Well, that's a problem. So we have an nonentity added. We create a visual. We add to its removal event. And we're going to call release node on the visuals node. In the visual, where we trigger removal. Remove entity, we clear the entity out. When we remove particle, we pull the particle off of the node is still around. Invoke on, remove visual entity. What? I managed to hit the hotkey for running the program, but I didn't think I did. Right there. That should be triggering an invoke. The explosions aren't triggering the invoke. Step in. But, okay, we're going to go to release node. Oh, we're not counting releases because we're never counting releases. Womp womp. I'm currently juggling Ember here. She's sitting on my shoulder. And Ember, when she's doing this, gets real frustrated if I am not holding and petting her and not moving otherwise. Like, she will accept a single hand paying attention to her, but that means I'm going to be limited in how I can type. Like, I have to switch hands very quickly. Yeah, we're still gonna see our problem here. What I wanted to get to today was the logic to make it so that I could have, that I can customize the hitboxes. The explosions are supposed to be are 64 by 64 sprites, but right now they only have a collision of 32. The blobs and the bullets are 16 by 16 sprites, but they have a collision of 32. Because when we changed the visual aspect of it, we also changed how we're handling the hitboxes as a side effect, not intentionally. I would like to figure out a way to do sprite-based hitboxes, that it is the form of the sprite that matters. I suspect that would be much more expensive, but it would also be an interesting way to approach it. Is, can I get that shape tied to the sprite, like the loading of the texture? Can I get that hitbox in there? But yeah, there's a lot of complexity to that, because then you have to deal with like the animation surface, the changes in animation, all of that stuff. Okay. Escape. Back, take a look. Okay, again, we only released 2557. There was as many as 83 in the cache, which should not be happening. With as many being created as we are, the cache should be getting consumed almost immediately. I wonder if we are running into an event issue. Shouldn't be a threading thing. Physics is handled in its own thread, but it's not like it splinters the thread into one for each event kind of thing. An event is just a glorified function call. Okay, let's eyeball where we're creating them. So we're calling getNode here. And that is happening in the renderer. Renderer calls getNode. Whenever we add an entity, we create the visual from the entity's key. We add the visual to our collection. We initialize the visual using a node that we supply and the entity. Then we bind to the removal event, which the entity will fire, which the visual will fire in two circumstances: when the entity is gone or when the animation is done, depending on which kind. So this should make it so that whenever the visual is done, we get this event. Where we unbind to that specific one, we release the node back to the cache, and we pull that visual out of the collection. And we've already unbound from that visual, so this event can't happen for the same one again. So we go into visual particle. I wonder if particle finished isn't happening as frequently as it should. Because we know this has led to problems. There's something about the way the GPU particles are set up. I would use CPU particles to test, but they lack they lack a lot of the structure of the GPU one, which means it's not a one-to-one conversion. Right there. Explosions are never being removed. Since we're never dequeuing them, they just keep getting added every time an explosion goes through. But there is nothing that should be not set to play once. Yep. Okay. I don't... let's test here. I don't think particle finished is getting called. It is not. Well, there's at least one of our culprits. I don't know if it's all of them, but it's our particle here. Because it should be set to true here. But we're never getting this result. What else we got? Yeah. And a nightmarish is setting script change. Does that mean you can attach scripts at runtime? Oof. This node has spontaneously become a different thing. Just throwing something at the wall here. Nope. Microsoft so desperately wants you to turn on Copilot, and I can only imagine it's because if Copilot is on, there's probably some part of the agreement that says we can scrape your stuff to train Copilot. It's the same reason that they actually released a universally hated feature, even though they conceded and turned it off by default. But it's like Windows Recall, which is it takes a snapshot of your screen every so often, like your screen and everything that was running on the system. Well, so that it can conveniently restore if something goes wrong. But they've shown it's recording things like passwords and whatnot. And since that is sent into like an online repo, that means that a whole bunch of private information is being transmitted and stored remotely. That's not good. And security experts and testers hated it, wanted it gone, and there was a period of time where they jammed it in and wouldn't let you turn it off unless you could find the registry settings. Hey there, Nope. Welcome. We're debugging. Painfully slowly. Okay, let's check something here. Okay, let's... I hope that's not the case. particle dot emitting equal to false. Visual novel, huh? What kind of visual novel you making? Nope. What's the matter, C? What's the matter? I still need to figure out why that is happening. I mean, I know why it's happening is if there's an unhandled exception at a given point, C# will break by default if it's not user handled. Elsewhere, it could be caught and handled, but I don't have explicit handling for it. So I'm getting those errors popping up during the loading process, which is yet another reason that I want to simplify the threading for this. Okay, we're not exploding. Particles are still happening. Let's go over to the Godot side. And on the Godot side, that crash that happens... I mean, stories are stories. Nope, there's always room for that kind of thing. Spam particles. Stop. Check. Notice how this number is much higher now? Maybe you can't see how much higher that number is. Now, the max cache got up to 327. It should not be getting that high. But node released is at 3600, with node created at 5200. The disparity is still too big. That's still a problem. Where are the kitties hiding? But we're closer. And that's because, apparently, if a GPU particle's emitting, which is true by default, is emitting, setting it to one-shot true during that does not guarantee ever that the finished trigger will happen. Wow, the kitties are absolutely hiding. We have Sammy in the tree. Sky is on my lap. Ember was hiding under the table. Sherbet is almost certainly in my footrest, though I did see him run by. Sherbet and Ember have been playing a bit recently. She saw him creeping around last night, and she went full target acquisition, like full saucer eyes. And was all like meerkatted up trying to see him. Okay, so we're still not getting all of the releases we should, and it's not consuming nodes as much as it should. So we still have a disparity here. We should not be getting that many created, period. So there are some that are still not going away. Oh, dear, dear, dear. So if these are created and they never go away, so that would explain our leaked objects. It would explain why we are periodically creating things when we don't need to. But it doesn't explain how the cache is getting so big. We should still be consuming them. Making sure Sky didn't press any of the buttons there as he left me. They like to walk over the soundboard on their way through. Let's get this all the way up here. As soon as we create it, we say you're not emitting. I might do restart on it just to be sure, since let's just spam these out real quick here. Oh, I started it in C++, so I won't get the debug messages. We do this, we're creating like 240 things per second, and then every second those things emit another thing. And it's that other thing, these little explosions, that are causing our problem. Okay, we're at almost 1-to-1. Our cache is still too big. Well, I mean, ultimately, that can be okay. But I think we're still in better shape. Let's look at this again. Again, calamity case scenario. We are going to strain the system like crazy. So we want it to get out to about 2500. Then we're going to drop it back down. We should see a performance hit. We should see less frames per second than we started with. Let's keep it like this so that we still get our actual coverage here. Okay, so dropping back down. Okay, we recover at 400. Let's look at our monitor. Nodes is back down, but nodes is still very high. That's to be expected. We have created a lot of extra nodes. But our object count is still real high. So we escape out, we take a look at our output. That is right about where we want to be. It only got about 9 higher than was in the cache ever. The fact that it got out to 6,000, still questionable. Still questionable, but that is within the domain of objects that could exist at any given time. We never got that high in the entity count, though. So this number is still too high. That is still too high. But I think we're to the point where we're actually freeing everything that we should. Now we need to get it down to where that cache is never getting too big. This will get too high. This is a number that isn't going to help us anymore. Because when I'm shutting down, when I am done and remove the tree, all of those nodes say, hey, I'm done, I'm going away. Everything is inevitably removed. Though it ultimately shouldn't be. Again, that number is still too high. We shouldn't be creating that many nodes. We shouldn't ever be getting above 3,000. All right, let's do it without the explosions except for the base one. Means it's going to take us longer to hit our target threshold here, but not too much longer. I think this number isn't being accurate. In fact, I'm sure that number isn't accurate. I know why. Again, the explosions live for like 1 physics frame. Once this number gets too low, physics frames happen more often than render frames. So the explosion is alive for less time than we do the graphical update that would lead to this. Let's change that around and make sure that I'm getting an accurate count. Because I think... Now see, this was healthier. Right there, 109 in the cache. And a created count that is within range. Like, that many in the cache is not ideal, but we are creating things on the second count, and objects could be going away any time within that time frame. Give or take, you know. They could be running into something, that kind of thing. So we could get extra in the cache. The explosions are still a problem. The explosions are still a problem. They are bloating things out. Which means they're probably not releasing. They're still probably not releasing every time. Now, I could have each of them do a little check inside themselves and verify if they should be going away. That feels like I shouldn't have to do that, the same way I don't like that I have to do this. So let's look a little further and see if more other additional people have run into this same problem. Physics. Comes in the documentation. Doing some reading, sorry. Godot's a nice platform. Godot is a nice platform. We create the particle, we add it at the end, okay. This seems to be all that we really need to do. To get the play once to work. Start it in C, I need to start it in Godot. Just for... Yeah. So we still have some lingering objects. We're clearing some of them out, but there are still explosions that are getting through the net. Hey there, Colin. So we still have a problem. And even setting aside the explosions, I think some things are getting through the net, but it's primarily the explosions. Yeah. When it's explosions, there's a disparity. So how can we verify this? Let's break there. Still trying to find that object leak. We know, for the most part, I know what's causing a good portion of it, and that's... Okay. It ended. That took a little longer than I would expect, but... Play once is true. Particle is not emitting. Okay, let's... Public override. The visual is just catalogable, so we can't do that. There. I'm looking for events that I might be able to attach to. To do another check and see if the entity should be removed. Because we are getting our one shot, our process finished, our particle finish triggering on it. I don't know if it's always triggering. How about... Released. Okay, if this object goes away, but the release method wasn't called on it, then we are going to pitch fit. Yep. some of these are managing to escape the cycle. Only a couple of them there, though. Only a couple right at the beginning. That's still not going to help enough. All right, let's let it get up to full bonkers here. I'm going to look at not having a full pixel outline on the objects here. I'm going to look at attaching a shader to cover a couple of things. One, I want to have a palette swap mechanism. So that's something we can do with a shader by having the objects in various... effectively, they would have color codes assigned to them. So they have a palette, and they have particular colors that appear on the sprite that are affected by the palette. So like if I wanted to change the color of the slime, I wouldn't go through and make a new slime sprite. I would go through and say, okay, the slime looks kind of, let's say it looks grayscale, or I have a couple of other colors that are outside of visual usage, your classic super neons, you know, maximum red, maximum pink, that kind of thing. And put those in there and say, if these colors appear, they are the palette colors. And in the shader, it would say, okay, I have a palette. If I see this color, what that actually means is to use this palette color. You do that, and then as an additional part of the shader, whenever you're checking if a part of the tile should be rendered, so this sprite, the blobs are on little 16 by 16 tiles. If I'm checking the tile to render, I check and see, is there any color? Is there any non-entirely transparent color adjacent to this position? If there is, render in a darker color. So we create an outline around it without it having to be part of the sprite. Anywho. Okay, we are getting piles of problems as that goes along. Not enough of them still. Not nearly enough. But we are getting a bigger number. Let's try to make a couple of things more accurate here. Let's make sure that we have all of this recorded. Easy enough to hunt for debug prints. Okay, we're going to go into, I believe it's game. And we're going to look where we do the HUD update. And child, here's, we're running through and updating. When we process, this is when we're updating the HUD here. So let's do... This will make that upper right corner thing more expensive, but it should be more accurate to the reality of the world, since at the start of every physics frame, we are going to check that. So I could still do the frames per second one separately. It's still right on target. Huh. Oh, wow. Well, it doesn't help that we were running it technically twice. Load it again. Let's change that debug around. Static. Okay, we're adding a count to it. It will still spam, but I want to see how often it's happening, or how frequently it has happened at the time that we shut down here. Don't really need that. We'll let it get up to maximum here. About heck. Okay, the problem cases are not the only ones. We still need to account for them, but they're not the only one. We also need to have logic for if we're getting a repeat somehow. Okay, quick break. Be right back.
And we're back.
Things here. Okie dokie. Alright. We're still creating too many. The problem case. Well, one of these problem counts is still present. Let's do... removal. Might have to do that in the sprite one as well, but particle is tricky because it is not bound to an entity. Ran it in C#, which we don't really want to. It's not going to like that. All right. So now we strain the system here. Escape out. Still... If we were getting no more than 5,000 of these, but the nodes created seem to scale pretty much indefinitely. With... Oh, it just exploded. We have to add another safety check to that if we want to do that. So this is if it's not released. Okay, when we're triggering removal, when we're removing things. Go.is valid. Go object.is valid instance is instance valid particle and particle that. Okay, so if the particle is still a thing, oops. Yeah, I want to stop debugging. Hey, Berku. And Dinas. Ennis. Hello, and we're doing okay. We're doing okay. think I may have created a catch-22 case in my debugger right now. There we go. Yeah, it exploded. Just a second. Do the debug over here. It's really getting to that point, Laura, debugging the debugger. Maximize things that can go wrong. Berg it is. Ourselves get up to about 2,500 objects. Close enough. Still not affecting it. Well, we knew the problem case wasn't really the use case or the issue scenario, but that in. No worries, no worries. Okay, where else might we have problems? It's valid node. We're making sure this should have exploded previously if this was actually the problem, but and we aren't running into duplicate cases. Let's see how many of the kitties are present. So Ember is on camera currently. Let's see. Sammy's up in the tree, and we could see the curtain move briefly, so... oh, there's Sherbet, yeah. Mason or Sherbet bopped that curtain. Maybe Molly. Don't know where Molly is right now. Jeez. Sky is on the side of the desk, so currently we saw Sherbet briefly, but at the minimum, Mason and Molly are not visible. I shouldn't be having to do this, but since this object doesn't fully control all of its bits, like, it doesn't control node's existence. I have 6 cats, Burku. I have 6 cats. That's a new one. We really do need to change the file rating. Ugh. We're kind of thrashing, and that's not great for consistency. but most of it is just let's double check kind of stuff going on at the moment. So could be worse. Escape out, check the values. Still at the same kind of problem threshold. Check our monitors. We are still creating excess objects. It's getting there. It's getting there. That is primarily days of streams that we have spent doing this project. I've started doing more of it offline as well to try to keep it rolling, but okay, nodes are not lingering as much. Let's let it run at full tilt for a bit. We'll give it some more time. Huh. Okay. All right, so that's a problem for us. Trying to dispose of that in the destructor is just a problem. We're having to do too much song and dance here to ensure it properly goes away without causing a Godot error, when we know that's not really the issue. Thanks for swinging through, Berg. We're also just going to cull that out. So the fact that it takes so long, there's also error cases that crop up when I am running through Visual Studio that I'm concerned that they just reflect a, like a process strain scenario and not a debugger issue. That because we're running it maximum strain. Hello, Sherbet. Oh no, it's Molly. Molly crossing through. We're just gonna let this run for a bit. Moving the character just for funsies. Tick, 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 tick. We are maintaining about 1 frame per second. Oh. Yeah. So given enough time, we are still creating excess nodes. Let's do an additional test here. Just make sure that that gets freed. This is the object that we create, so we're just making sure we rip it out when we're done, in case it hasn't been. Okay, we're gonna go into our node cache. So we're populating this up front with let's do it during this. Is less than 7,500. Is not healthy for performance to do it this way, but learn this syntax. You can specify that not only is it a child class of node, there has to be a neutral constructor. I have to be able to just new it for this to work. He doesn't like that. Double check. Huh. Oh. Needs to be after ready that we do this. Initialized. We kept that. Let's say is less than 2,500. We'll do 2,750 just to give us some wiggle. Node is new T. Add child node cache push node. Okay, this oh no that won't work. This run and probably air out. Okay, there we go. Going to initialize first. So once the first time we get a node, we are going to prime the node collection with a whole bunch of them. Through Visual Studio again, which I don't want to do. I want to run it through Godot so I get all these lovely debug messages. Uh... Oops. That's a real problem. Do you see the problem? Every time we try to get a node, we call initialize. When we call into initialize, we set initialize to true, and then we add 2,750 nodes to the tree. Oops. We aren't making sure that we're not initialized when we do this. So, pretty much every second, multiple times a second, we were adding this many nodes. That is going to choke the engine out very quickly. If not initialized. Oops. It's like when you create an infinite loop, you know? All right. Max frames per second is definitely lower with this many. Not getting as many as normal. Okay, it's still creeping up. That's still plenty, though. Right there. Node created should be nothing. We should never get node created, because that cache is bigger than the number of things. Let's make the cache even bigger. Let's make sure. This is too many. This will be a performance cost. Everything costs performance, but this will be a tangible one. Hey, Harry. It's a pretty good day here. In terms of the stream has been fun, and you know, we're doing stuff. As far as progress, could be a lot better. So what I'm trying to do is account for the explosions, because the explosions are going to create new entities. Even if it's just for a split second, as soon as the explosion comes into existence, it gets another visual object. So once a second, all of the bullets, which are appearing at 240 a second and live for about 10, create an explosion. So this number is not accurate. What I might have to do is add a different debug statement and say this is how many visuals are present. Okay, we pop back, we look at our debug, and we created none. And the cache never exceeded. Well, that's a weird number for it, because it should have updated that. Oh, we only update the cache when one gets released. But okay, they weren't getting released very fast, but this implies that the explosions are living way longer than they should. let's... All right, so we overload it. We're not having as many operations like waveform and whatnot. Yeah, we are hoping that we reach a point where one of the gameplay goals is to get it to where you have really spectacular things that you can strive to get. That it's not about getting, like, oh, if I get these 3 weapons, it's a really good combo weapon that results. You know, your Vampire Survivors, your Rogue Genesia's, Hollow Cure as well. I mean, feel free and call out, Harry. All of those generally have a gimmick of you want to get particular combinations of weapons, not because they're by themselves, like that pair of them is good, but because once they reach a point, they merge together and become like a super weapon. I want to avoid that and have it more be, if I get the right combination of power-ups, I can turn a weapon into a super weapon, as long as I put them in the right order and, as long as I put them in the right order. Okay, pause that, jump back out, look here. Cache hasn't changed much. We didn't create any more nodes. Okay, the caching has some sort of problem that it's got to be effectively a race condition, is if there's not enough, it starts creating them. And because there are so many being created per unit time, we're just constantly making more to keep up with it. Oh, yes, Harry. That scenario, effectively by that point, if the player gets to that point, they've become a boss in like a Toho game. And that's really where you want to be. Like, you want to get to that scenario. So we can de-obfuscate some of this. So this is slightly more reasonable while still being fantastically powerful. Like, if you were to get to this, it's going to be very hard for the enemies to reach you unless they're much more numerous and much more durable. Right now, the test enemies can only take 1 hit, period. So this many bullets going out massively overwhelms their numbers. We remove the spiral. Let's put a seek the enemy out here. Which doesn't seem to be working at all. We'll have to revisit that one. And here, we'll just make them bounce an extra time. And even if we remove these down here. So this is like more than 1 blob a second, but because we're firing about 9 bullets a second, those bullets can bounce multiple times and they explode on impact. There's more than enough coverage to wipe out this many enemies of this durability. Feel free to ask questions, Harry. Sometimes what you think is going to be a rude question won't be a rude question. And I'll let you know if it's something that I don't want to answer, and I'll let you know if I do indeed think that it's too rude. Okay, I think we've solved that. We just need to have enough entities in the cache. This is not really ideal. But one thing it does tell us is that our max entity count might not be enough. Does this get referenced anywhere? Let's find out. We shouldn't be able to reach 10,000 at this stage. Yeah, we don't do this anymore. As much as I wouldn't mind keeping the shader collisions around for posterity, we don't need it anymore. It's not doing anything for us effectively. Let's actually clean that up just a little bit more. We're going to go to node cache. Entity manager dot max entities. Okay. Game and story. So again, general concept of the game is a bullet heaven. So you acquire weapons and power-ups that allow you to fire, ideally, you put damage onto the screen. So more bullets, more explosions, all of that kind of stuff. Because the enemies will be swarming in quickly. So the goal is to kind of shoot them down before they get to you. It's called a bullet heaven as a contrast to a bullet hell, where the term originated, so your Toho-style games. To a lesser extent, a lot of shoot-'em-ups like your Gradiuses and such, which often turn into bullet hells, but not always. Lore-wise, story of the game is derived from my character backstory, as well as some origination in a Noita mod that I made way back in the day when we were really kicking off our streaming. We're going after a Path of Exile map clearing build is where we want players to reach. Everything go boom now. Okay, so we're going to go in and say that the node cache that might not be how I want to do it. I might have a constructor for it, but the difficulty is that I can't mess with the tree until the owner exists. Fire away. Not too worried about recommendations. Can't guarantee that they will happen, but Those, commit all that. When we instantiate a node cache, we're able to give it a parent node. Let me shuffle this a little further. Can I get away with this? Instead of here, and then when we are initializing it in the renderer, manager max entities. Okay. Then we're going to run it over here so we can get our performance info. Run it up. Discovery in which way, Harry? Do you mean during gameplay? Like, how does the story unfold kind of thing? Or do you mean, like, mechanics discovery? So, how does the player learn kind of thing? Escape out. Double check. Okay, we had to make nodes that time. We go into node cache. Oh. Reload. Cache size. And run it again. It didn't preload because I didn't tell it to preload. And gameplay-wise, this is uncommon. Like, just getting these power-ups the way they are set up and the way that they're working is not going to be how they work in the game. These 5 right here are very, very, very powerful. Any sort of you fire more projectiles at once in this kind of game is always really, really good. And that's why they're normally greatly limited. I think Vampire Survivors, it's like +2 or 3 is the normal global modifier for projectiles. And what I've done right there is +240. which is a bigger number than 3. Okay, we never created them. Excellent. Excellent. And the cache never got... I should change that and have min cache. Let's do that real quick. We're not going to change the name just because I'll remove all those debugging things later. So there's max cached. Where are we doing that? Created. Okay, so this is when we are adding to the cache. We're going to say if it is less than max cache, then we're going to set it. So this will be minimum cache. For those that have been following the development for a bit, caching was something that we did quite a bit ago, and we have circled back around to different ways of doing it and handling it, this time making it good. Within reason, there is a frames per second cost on this caching, and I'm going to have to be cautious with this because multiple things are going to need this caching. Okay. Our max entities is not enough. Max entities, if you hit maximum, it will actually ignore them. It just won't create that entity. So I'm expecting that some of the explosions that should have happened didn't. So let's do another test here. Again, this is going to further hurt the game. So we're gonna just, yeah, if you can see, our frames per second is down at 158 right now. We are kind of in the danger zone for the core systems costing too much to run. All right, we're gonna overload it. But if we can stay at 60 or higher frames per second, that's fine. That's plenty good enough. Let's make sure we're really straining it. So like this doesn't count. If this drops below 60 frames a second, drops below 30 frames a second, that's okay. Because this is, again, you win. Doesn't matter how tough the game gets, there's too much going on, too many bullets in the air for you to really stop anything. Outside of an instant kill scenario where you essentially throw a creature that has 1,000,000 HP straight at you. Again, your vampire survivors, white ghost, your hollow cures, swarm of super yagus. Hack. Okay, now we let it cool off. Now, do we jump back above or back up to our kind of 120 plus territory once this number cools off? $40, 160, 180. Yes, it does. Okay. So we still need to keep our eye on the performance cost of this. Because the next thing I'm going to be doing is the collisions. First, we're going to see if we actually need to cache the collisions. Because each one of these entities, all of these little guys have a area 2D pinned to them already. We're not caching any of that. So it may be that we don't need a node cache for the collisions. That'd be great. If we do... Well, thanks, Harry. Thanks. I appreciate it. And there's nothing that you have to apologize for. You're not asking any bad questions. Okay. A couple of things here. Buttons. And more buttons. Okay. I think we're going to wrap up here for the day, folks. This? So originally I wanted to move on to updating the collision handler to use another layer of object that would go in and say, okay, this is how I will handle collision. So not all of them would be an area 2D with a collision shape. Some of them would be, some of them might be an area 2D, but what they actually do is, or they're a node 2D that actually does a hit scan, does a ray trace every physics process, and reports those collisions up. That kind of thing. But we got to get that in place first. We got to work on that. We'd also need to figure out how to get those events bubbling properly. Whether that needs a node cache or not, I don't know. But we have solved the memory leak, and that was race condition. That was... we are hitting the cache so hard and so frequently that we need to make extra objects when we normally wouldn't want to. And that's a problem. But I think we got to the bottom of it. This is good. It does tell me that I need to have... What I might have to do is, for the debug UI, have the UI subscribe to the entity added and removed events so it can update its running counter and just show that counter on a visual update. But we'll have to see how to keep track of that. Like, get the maximum number of entities that existed during that frame update and then reset it to the current whenever I do the frame update. Something like that, you know? That way we can do a better job. Okay. About 20,000 would prevent cache overflow, which we don't necessarily need to worry about, but it does create problems. Getting slightly distracted from my wrap-up here, looking at these. We are still getting object leakage, I think, but we'll get to that. We'll see. So I'm going to have to do some more research leading into the next stream. Hopefully that's not going to impact that stream happening. What I don't like to do is go into coding streams without a general plan. If I'm still working on a bug, I don't want to just sit there and kind of bang my head on the keyboard for the whole stream. Uh, but yeah, I hope everybody had a good time with us, watching with us tonight. If you like what you saw and would like to see more, remember to like, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. Press those buttons. If you'd like to consider financially supporting the channel, you can do so through platform-specific means such as membership, subscriptions, bits, and messages, and all of that stuff, as well as through Patreon and Ko-fi. You can find links to my various channels and donation platforms in the link tree in my description and bio. But with all that said, I hope the rest of your day is good, and I'll see you next time.